Okay, so my name is Anastasia Fletcher, and I've been teaching for actually 9 years now. That's wrong. 9 years in the early years, in both London and Dubai. And I'm now in my 3rd year in Hong Kong. And I'm currently working in reception, and I'm Read, Write, Ink phonics trained. So that's one of my specialist areas, and I love to teach phonics to children and to support other teachers with phonics as well.
Hi there, I'm Claire Cunningham, and I've been teaching 2 years in EYFS in Hong Kong and Sai Kung. This is my first international, so come all the way from Scotland straight to Hong Kong. I'm Jolly Phonics trained, and I've developed literacy and phonics programs in schools to help raise attainment.
And also, just to make it clear that none of us are Kate Erica. She is the organizer of these webinars, and she will be supporting you with being able to see these webinars on YouTube after. So the outcomes for the session today, hopefully, are that you'll know a bit more about phase 5 and 6 phonics, and how the children have got from the phase 1 start of phonics up to phase 5 and 6, where they will be the end of reception and into year 1. How you can support and challenge children with phonics and with their developing writing, and how you can support them to be independent, because that's what we really believe in, that writing should be totally independent as soon as possible, and how they can help themselves to get better at writing, and giving children purpose for writing so they actually have a reason to want to write, how important the environment is in writing and phonics, how you can scaffold writing with the children to help them to succeed, and a little bit about phonics and reading as well. So the learning journey for myself and Claire looks a bit like this. We've talked so far in these webinars about the phase 1 phonics, which is when children listen to sounds in the environment and they start blending sounds together. Then they start learning what the sounds look like, so that the sound T is a letter T and how to draw it. And with our phonics, the way we teach it, they will have pictures to help them. So the letter T will be a tower, and they say down the tower, across the tower. So there's all sorts of reading schemes that we use to support the children. Then they will start mark making by themselves, trying to write words and playing with the letters and getting confidence with writing. Then that will hopefully move on to them applying it by themselves, blending and segmenting words with support from adults still, but always trying new words, sounding out by themselves. And we've always highlighted the importance of letting children get things wrong, and that spelling correctly isn't the most important thing for us, but it's more about the confidence for the children from day 1. And then, so this week, we're talking now about independent reading and writing, and those children really becoming confident writers.
Phase 5 generally takes children the whole of year 1, and it starts introducing alternative spellings for the sounds like the trigraph I, and the children master these in their reading first as their fluency develops, and we begin to see them using these correctly in their spelling. So the children will learn trigraphs and digraphs in phase 5, which is a continuation from phase 4, where they learn how the blends. It's about giving children alternative spellings, and once they again learn these through different rhymes and also symbolic pictures, then they can see how to pronounce them and when identify them when they're reading, and also to help them with their writing as well. The children learn these new graphemes in different ways, and they would know, like, for example, the sound OW as in snow and cow. It's the same letters but different way of saying it, different pronunciation. The children will start to become more confident with their blending, and they start to do this more independently and silently rather than trying to decode or blend the words out loud. They also learn about the split digraphs and, for example, the magic E, and they'll start to choose the right graphemes, and we help and support our children by giving them the sound mats, which you can see in front of you. And by the end of year one, children should be able to say the sound for any of the graphemes they've been shown. They should be able to write the common ones, like for example, E, I, and O and U, all the different digraphs that we have for that. And using their phonics knowledge that they've already learned will be able to help them to read and spell unfamiliar words of up to 3 syllables. At this point, they should be able to read 100 of the high frequency words and be able to spell most of these correctly. During this phase, the children all begin to read the words fluently, and they're no longer blending and segmenting those familiar words. They're reading with much more independence, and they're thinking about their expression. It's not like a choo-choo train where it's robotic. It's got that fluency because that confidence is there, and we've built on all of those existing those skills and the spelling from the phonics that's been introduced in phase 2. And the real focus throughout this phase is not only just to learn the new graphemes for the children, but also just the different pronunciations. So in phase 5, this is where we start to have the different spelling rules, and it's just practice, and the children will be able to read these and identify them as they get more confident. Phase 6 is the phonics that is taught throughout year 2, with the aim of the children becoming fluent readers and more accurate with their spelling. By phase 6, children should be able to read hundreds of words using 1 or 3 of the strategies. They need to be able to read automatically at this stage. They can decode the words quickly and silently, and as well as decoding them aloud. They're also introduced to prefixes and suffixes, the past tense. They're using from their memory the high frequency words or topic words. And we have a lot of these just displayed around the classroom for children to access, and so that they can just refer to them should they need to, because again, it's about giving them that independence. They're able to use all of these spelling strategies and skills to help proofread their reading and their writing, and also at this stage be able to use dictionaries so that they can go and access a dictionary and be able to have those skills so that they can try and find how to spell it accurately. Also, we're about to put apostrophes in contraction words like I am, I'm, and all of the spelling rules. So in phase 5 and 6, the children have been taught different spelling rules, and also just which words adapt or take on these spelling rules, and also just different strategies on how to learn the high frequency words so that they become more confident in their spelling and also in their writing.
I think it's quite important to say there as well that we get asked quite a lot, don't we, about when will children learn the correct spelling, yes. And we want to make it really clear that it will be during these phase 5 and 6 phonics. They will learn the correct spellings, but throughout the early stages of phonics learning, from phase 1 to 3, 4, it's more about that confidence and about trying different sounds and trying those different blends, and if they get it wrong it's okay, because they will learn it one day. So it will generally be year 1, year 2 where they will learn those very complicated different sounds for all the different words that Claire just said.
I was going to just add to that, in year 1 and 2 they'll be doing a more informal spelling, so they probably, as part of their homework, they will need to learn the words. Whereas I would say in reception you're doing it still very multisensory, and it's about accessing it, you know, and writing the tricky words in the sand or Play-Doh. It's very much a kinesthetic way to learning the tricky words.
So we have already done 3 webinars before. If you weren't there for those webinars, we're just going to recap quickly how the children got to these phase 5 and 6, these tricky spellings, the really, really independent writing. So it starts with environmental sounds and oral blending, which is all about listening and just hearing those sounds in words, hearing the sounds in the environment, hearing the sounds outside. And then it moves on to mark making with different objects and materials, like Claire just said. It's really sensory, really kinesthetic, just getting children to use their hands in different ways, different shapes, in different kind of materials. And then children will learn what the sounds look like, which is what our children are doing now. They are in reception at the moment. They have learned set 2 sounds already. So they'll be moving on to phase 3 after Christmas. And they are now already mark making, experimenting with pencils and pens. So it doesn't have to always be pencils and pens straight away. It can be writing in different materials, with paint, with sand, with glitter, or just using the actual letters. Our children like to pretend to be the teacher, don't they? And use the letters to make words. That's absolutely fine. They're not always ready for pencils and pens yet. Then they will start blending and segmenting with support, which ours are doing at the moment as well. We will be moving hours on to sentence writing soon, and using those finger spaces and capital letters and full stops, because they're getting really good at writing words by themselves. They will then start learning tricky words, more complex sounds, like those phase 3, 4, 5 sounds that are really complicated, they don't see often, those digraphs and trigraphs. And then we want to give them a purpose for writing, and the children will be ready to start using their sounds for different things, which we'll talk about in this webinar as well. So giving writing a purpose is really important. At the moment in our classrooms, we're all set up for Christmas. We don't know if we'll see the children, unfortunately, because school's closed again. But if they were in, they would have lots of different things all in the classroom, giving them that inspiration for writing. Of course, the most obvious one is writing to Santa. But there are other things as well to give them a real purpose. So having a theme for writing, something they really love. So it might be writing about your family, it might be writing about animals and dinosaurs, give them that something, a purpose to write for, because something they can really relate to at this age. There might be an end of topic project they can write about. So for example, you work towards writing a story at the end, or writing a poem, or writing a poster, and it can be the end of something you've worked on to give them a reason to want to write it. We have letterboxes in our classes at the moment, again for Christmas, but one of my children asked a couple of weeks ago if we could make a letterbox, so we did, and that she wanted to post letters in there, so I said, why not, let's do that, that's her interest. She never got to post one yet, but hopefully she will. They might write lists, so in the role play area they might have lists to go shopping, or a list for Santa at the moment if they were in the class, or writing recipes, or making posters. So there's all different reasons they might write for. It doesn't have to be just writing a sentence or just writing a story. It can be all sorts of different things that they will use their writing for, and to give them that sort of different real life purpose for writing.
So supporting the development of writing, especially for children, we have a lot of EAL children, and it's just making that environment the third teacher. And also being able to scaffold the learning for the children. So it's giving them the foundations, you're modelling it first, and then they're becoming more independent the more that they practice. So for example, in phonics for my children just now, we're holding a sentence, and so today I showed them a picture of the pup in the mud. So we would say a pup in the mud. After looking at the picture, the children would give me the words that they would need to use. Then we would count them on our fingers. We would repeat it in a loud voice, quiet voice, and then we would have a go at writing. So it's about constantly doing the modelling, and also supporting the children who need that bit of challenge. Perhaps they can extend and add some other interesting words onto that. In our environments just now, we have got our tricky words, and we've got them on just like sticky back Velcro so the children can access them. We have writing in all of our areas, and the children can go over to those display boards and take the words that they need, take the sounds that they need. For Christmas, we've got words they might use for Christmas cards or for their letters to Santa. And also when we're having our carpet sessions, just how important is the success criteria? What is it we want the children to be able to do at the end of the lesson? What am I looking for, and how are you going to be able to achieve that? So even today, we're back to doing our virtual school. So in my phonics group, after we had written the sentence, I asked the children to check against the like marking criteria, success criteria, and they were able to look and see, do I have a capital letter? Have I used my finger spaces? Have I got a full stop at the end? And that's just where we are just now. And they put a tick to show that they have all of those things that I'm looking for in order to be successful. So at this stage, we're even introducing a kind of checklist to help the children to be successful. I spoke before just about the environment, so you can see how our environment is set up so that the children can access at all different levels of ability, so that all the, you know, your more able children are also being challenged. It's now that the children are ready to write words and sentences, it's important to have access to writing all over the classroom, as well as stimulus to write. So you can see that we've got the post office there. It could be a vet or a doctor's surgery, anything of interest to the children. I've actually got a jewellery shop, and I've made got post-it notes. I've put a telephone in, a mobile phone, clipboards, just to try and encourage some of maybe the less confident readers, writers, to have a go at just mark making. The children are encouraged to write and learn. We always provide an enrichment of print throughout our classrooms, so that the children can see labels, they can see the children's work. I ask my children to showcase any of the work that they would like for others to look at, so that they can see different types of print, and also just having words everywhere. I think that's important, because in real life, well, you know, outside of school, we have got words and environmental print everywhere. We want it to be of interest to the children, so it's tapping into, if it's superheroes or princesses or things like that, making sure that the children have got something that as a hook to get them started with writing. Again, we want that independence, and as the children travel through the phonics journey, you will see each stage that they will have them gathered lots of different knowledge, lots of different spelling, they're applying their skills they've learned, they're accessing the tricky words, and it's absolutely fine to be looking at sound maps or tricky words just to help them. And I would encourage that. It's not about having to learn these words off by heart, because as the children get older, then it just becomes natural to them with the more that they practice. And also, like, letting the children know, I have got some EAL signs up in my classroom, just so that we're embracing all nationalities and how it looks, just encouraging that different print for the children. And making sure that children who maybe aren't confident at speaking, we use signs as well. And for our ASN children, we might be using our Makaton or our sign language. We use social stories to help take that all the language away and make it more simplified. So it's just about having a varied amount of access to words and display around your class. It's really important that children do something well, that we showcase it. It's about this journey from the beginning through nursery all the way through, and within reception. And I do love teaching reception, because we can see really quickly when we've completed the phase 2 set of sounds that children are beginning to write independently. And just when that magical moment when it clicks, when a child writes their first sentence independently, and we're not even at this stage really looking at any spelling, we're looking just at the mechanics of it. Have they get the capital letter, finger spaces? Did they remember the full stop? And all children learn differently, so it's about having that differentiation, supporting those children who need it, but also making it really inspiring. And our head teacher loves it when the children go and showcase their learning. So we very much, when they do something, wow, right, you have to go and show Mrs. Coleman, and they really enjoy that praise. Because it's just the very start of their journey, it's about making sure that they're so motivated at this stage. And you can see that in the different classrooms, how the phonics looks. So the one at the top there, that is a year 1. And you can see the bottom left is the start of the journey in my classroom. And you can see how they've started off just writing sounds in the sand or the glitter. Then they've used their drawings to label, and also then go on to some independent. So all the children at different stages, and the fact that we're back to virtual school again, we're just being very mindful of where the children are to make sure that we're consolidating that learning, but we're also challenging those ones that are ready.
So something that we have started in reception, but that children mainly do in year 1, is something called Talk for Writing, and you may or may not have heard of Talk for Writing. I think it normally actually has a number 4 instead of the word for. Talk for Writing is something that was developed by Pi Corbett and supported by Julia Strong, and it's a lovely engaging teaching framework that they have developed to really encourage children to get that independence and imagination in writing. And it's really powerful because it's based on the principles of how children learn, and enables them to copy, imitate the language they need for a particular story or topic, talking about it and using actions before they read it, and analyze it and then draw pictures of it, and then they end up writing their own version of it. And it usually spend about a week or so on one story or topic. It doesn't have to be a story, but with our little ones at the moment, we have been talking about the going on a bear hunt, which we'll show you next. And the quality writing is really created by expanding the oral language skills. So like Claire was talking about, that speaking is just so important. So getting the children to talk about a story first, then teaching them the steps to extend the sentences into paragraphs and story and text construction. So again, if children haven't talked about something, it's much more difficult for them to write it onto paper. So Talk for Writing really gets it into their heads, really gets it part of their life for a week or so, sometimes 2 weeks, and they end up writing their own version of something, almost effortlessly at the end, because they've really got it into their brain and into their body, really. So how do we do Talk for Writing? So our children at the moment, on the bottom left there, there's a girl in my class who has made a story map of going on a bear hunt. And so we started this week or last week with making a story map, because it really helps them to, if you put the story into pictures and with a little bit of text, if they're ready to write, then it really helps them to retell the story. And then they can even make up actions that match the pictures. So when they tell the story, they can say it, they can act it, and they can read it at the same time on their map. And then the pink one is a picture of, an adult, so a teacher has made this, but maybe a year 1 class would read this, and it's the 3 little pigs. So each word normally has a particular picture if you're using the Pi Corbett scheme. So Once Upon a Time is always a book, and the action is always the same. It's someone opening their hands like a book. So you'd always say, once upon a time. And then the next part of the story is an arrow. There were 3 little pigs. And then one day, the next part of the story, the mum said, you are too old to live here. You need to make your own house. So then, and the child can then look at this map, and they can retell the whole story without a single word, just speaking it, imagining it, and putting it into their brain. So I'm going to show you a couple videos now. One of them is a little boy in Claire's class who has used his story map of going on a bear hunt. And he couldn't tell the story, could he, a week ago? But he has now practiced using his map to tell the story of going on a bear hunt. So bear with me, I'm going to find the video. It didn't work on here. That's not it. There we go. Okay.
Going on the bear hunt, we going catching fish, but a beautiful day. Green nuts get up. We can't go over, we can't go under it. We got to go slowly. We're going on the bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What's a beautiful day? Me not scared. A big oozy man. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no, we got to go there. From. We going on the bear hunt. We go and catch a big one. What's a beautiful day? We not scared.
So it works really well with this little boy in our reception classes because it's a repetitive story. So he knows each time he sees footprints, he has to say, we're going on a bear hunt. And then each time he sees one of the things they get to, he knows what it is already. It's already there. The next video is some children in year 1 who are talking about 3 Little Pigs. So they have written out and drawn the story in a story map. They've learned it over a course of a few days, and they're now going to retell the story using set actions for each word. So they know what's coming next, and the teacher's helping them out, but they're really independent.
The wolf got angry and blew the house down! Exclamation mark. The little pig ran to the house made of wooden sticks. The terrible wolf followed full stop. Little pig, won't you let me come in? Question mark, growl. Full stop. The pig replied, not by the hair on my chinny chin chin. Full stop, Juanita. Do not let you in! Exclamation mark. Take it as a clap and you can sit down.
So you can see that the teacher's reading from a story map at the front of the class, but the children are also reading that, and there probably aren't any words on there. It's just pictures, and they can retell the story. So when they then come to writing their own story, it's all in their heads. It's all there. They can imagine themselves telling it. They can imagine what it feels like to tell the story, and they, in the end, write their own version of the story. And we haven't actually got a example here, which is a shame, but they can then, at 5 and 6 years old, write incredible stories because they've acted it out and they've drawn it and they've pretended to be the pigs and pretended to be the wolf, and it's amazing to see. Let's get back to the webinar. Where are we?
The children also at that stage, they you would work collaboratively. It would be a whole class, and the children would think of pictures to go with that part of the story, so that it's more meaningful. So as a whole class, they would decide what will we draw for this part of the story, and then it's that step by step.
Yeah, and they can think of the actions as well, can't they? But yeah, as I said, PyCorbit does have sort of set actions for a lot of things, but it doesn't mean you have to use those. You can do talk writing as however you want. There's no set law, but sometimes it does work really well to have those same actions for the same parts of the story, doesn't it? But also they can then talk and make up their own.
And they're taught connectives at that point as well. And that would be, you know, the same for the symbols, whether it's
like next, after, you're right, yeah, it's lovely. It's thoughtful writing. So then there's also shared writing, which is a teacher-led thing that you can do with the children. Whole class input and using partner talk. So I would maybe have my children all sat on the mat together, a meter apart at the moment, obviously, and maybe have a whiteboard, and using partner talk, we would write a short piece of writing together. It could be just a sentence at this stage, obviously, they're very young, but it's mainly about the children thinking of their own words, their own way of improving a sentence, their own way of creating a extended sentence together with the teacher writing. And this differs from interactive writing, which have the children usually writing themselves. So that interactive writing, you would have the children could have a whiteboard and be writing by themselves. But shared writing would be the teacher writing, and the teacher would be then talking to the children like, oh, so once upon a time there was a princess. Our success criteria is to write describing words. Are we describing the princess? No. Can everyone think of a really good word? So some children might put their hand up and say beautiful, lovely, stunning, or shiny. So you might say, okay, what's the best word? Shall we use the word beautiful? Yeah, okay, so let's try again. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess. Is that the best we can do? No. Can everyone think of a way to describe her hair? Some children might say yellow, long, golden. Oh, I like the word golden. Okay, let's try again. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess with golden hair. Now it's a beautiful describing sentence. So that you work together, you build up, you up-level those sentences. And it allows children to then see the correct spelling and grammar on the board if the teacher is writing, so they get a chance to see how to write these words correctly. But they're thinking of their own words and way to improve the writing. And then when they go to write themselves, they can think, how can I make this better? Is this the best sentence I can write? If not, then I can try and up-level by myself.
So when we are working with children who are English as a second language, it's important that they feel very much supported. And it's about referring back to all those visual aids. That's really important. And also just making sure that what they are looking at, it's simplified. So sometimes the widgets are really good so that they can see how to perhaps structure a sentence, because sometimes they don't have that vocabulary. So it's about asking them what is it they would like to be saying first, and then having a go at writing. So then that's supported with the teacher. It's also modelled. They could also work with a partner. Also involving the parents. We've done some workshops for our parents to show them how they could support their children at home. It's not about getting the correct spelling, it's about working on that sentence structure, and just the logistics of it and what it looks like, that we've got our capital letter, finger spaces, full stop. Even at the very beginning, we ask children to draw a picture if we're introduced, for example, the sound S, and we would say, can you draw something starting with S? They would do that, and then it's about labelling. So the very beginning, it would just be mark making with a label, and then after that, they might have a go at writing a CVC word, and then it's just about putting all that support in place so that they're able to, by the end of the section, be feeling really confident in writing a sentence, being able to speak it first and then writing. If children can't say it, they can't write it. We are very much learning through play all the time. So the teacher and the TLA, the teaching assistant, will go into play with the children, and they will help them to be able to do some of their mark making or their writing. So English as a second language is what I'm referring to. So most of our children will either speak Cantonese, or they might be French or Spanish, and English will come second. So it's ensuring that they have the mechanics not only in their mother tongue first, but also then in their English. And obviously, because we have been virtual for most of this school year, it's about supporting those children, and we've had our children back for 2 weeks there, but unfortunately school's now closed again. But in the 2 weeks, with the children immersed in the language, immersed socially with their friends, that language development became very quick progress, which was lovely to see. So we have a lot of English as a second language for children speaking, and it's about supporting them and filling those gaps with vocabulary. And it's just about always just maybe making sure, have we kind of bridged the gaps, and what can I do next? It's about helping the children to feel confident and to praise them. No matter what they do, it's about building their confidence so that they can make those next steps. So that's really important. These are some of the widgets that I was talking about for our English as an additional language, and it's about structuring a sentence. So often it's quite broken English in terms of that some of the words are missing. So this really helps to structure. So what I've done before is I would have 4 bags filled with different objects, And so, for example, I could have a mixture of characters for the who. So the children pull out an object from the first bag, and then it's like, what are they doing? So I could have some photographs, I might have some objects, and then the children are using all of the objects in order, and then I'm modelling the sentence, and then they're modelling it back to me. So they're doing that repetition, and it's just that building up those foundations so that they do feel very confident speaking before writing. And we do that as early years practitioners anyway. Everything is over exaggerated, you know, really aware about the hand gestures that I use as well when I'm speaking. I try and, when I'm teaching, I'll always have visuals for those children, and I think it just needs to be embedded in our practice. I like using this here, the story plan below, so I would have that in all of the different areas of the classroom so that the children can just orally talk with their friends and make up their own stories using the different resources in their play. So the first one, again, it's just about who's in my story, where does the story take place. The next one, there's always a problem. Who's going to fix the problem, or what's the solution? And so if you train them up early like this, then that's setting those foundations for when they come to their writing. These are some of the examples of our independent writing. Again, as Anastasia said, it doesn't matter about spelling. You can see that the children know that there's finger spaces. They're having a go at using those tricky words. They've got their illustrations that are matching. They're using their phonics, the sounds that they know. And you can see that the first one is saying because. And that's perfect because we're training the children. These are the sounds, and they've used the digraph E to have a go at writing down. So we would say that that's amazing, well done, you've used your phonics. Sometimes it can be difficult at home because adults want children to spell the correct way. And by year 2, 3, then that's the right time for those. The children shouldn't be really spelling that way because they would have learned different strategies to help them with those more tricky words. But at this stage, it's about applying the skills they've learned in phonics and having a go, because if they don't have that motivation now and they're always told no, then they lose interest very quickly. So mistakes are absolutely fine.
Yeah, leading on from that, about what Claire just said about mistakes being okay, this is what they are currently doing in year 1 in this school. So this is a few different differentiated pieces of learning. They have, when we had the children in school, which they weren't in for very long, they were learning about putting things in order to write a, what's the word? I can't think of the word. Instructions, thank you. That's a hard word at 5:15 on a end of the day. Instructional writing, how to make a fruit salad. So obviously these children have had differentiated learning. Some of them have had more support than the others. Some of them have written more, some of them have written less. But in these pieces of writing, the children in year 1 are trained from early on to assess their own learning and to know what they need to do to make it better. So in this instructional writing, they have been told at the top, using pictures, what the success criteria is. So it says we are learning to write instructions, and it then tells them within those pictures all the things they need to do to be successful at that. So I think it looks like they need to use finger spaces, they need to use their digraphs and trigraphs, their sounds, full stop, capital letter at the beginning, they need to write with little letters, they need to think something or other, I don't know what that first one is, they need to think, and they need to use time connectives, that's what the clock at the end means, so first, next, then, finally. And then the children will go through with an adult with the green highlighter, and the green means that they've done something good. So they will highlight all of those success criteria they have done, recognising how amazing their writing is, and when they have made the correct choice and used the correct things. The orange means that they need to do something better for next time. So as you can see, there isn't a lot of orange. The teachers don't want children to be looking at all the mistakes they've made. They want them to be, again, instilling that confidence in year one. How many good things have they used? What can they work on next time? So the children will identify what they need to improve on with a teacher, and they'll use an orange highlighter to show what they need to do. So the child on the right has done big letters, I think a capital P when they should have done a little one. So that will then be their target on their next piece of learning. The child will then know, in my next piece of learning, I need to do this. They will then focus on that and improve that in their next piece of writing in their English books. So they are then self-improving. They know what their target is, and they know how to make it better, and they know how to keep on improving their own writing. So this is children a few weeks ago, so they're only just really starting year one. So they're already writing these instructional pieces, and they're really fantastic. And that's something we're trying to start in reception, aren't we? Children assessing themselves, knowing how to get better, and not always having to be told by a grown-up what they've done, and not being told what they've done wrong, but learning that improving is absolutely fine.
So what do we do about children who are not making that progress? So iPads are really good in terms of we can put them into the environment. So for my reluctant writers, just through choice and maturity, I've put iPads and superhero writing books. And what I've asked them to do is, when they make something fantastic in the construction area, to take a photograph of that, print it out, stick it into the book, and then they can write a sentence about it. And so that has really worked very well for some of my boys who just weren't interested in writing. And iPads can be used that way. The interventions where we actually take some children out and we just look at what those gaps are. Could it be because of their English as a second language? They just are mixed up between the languages, or is there something more underlying, like maybe dyslexia or ADHD? So it's just trying to kind of narrow that down and just planning. And it's important that that we do bridge those gaps for the children, and we go at their pace of learning, because if they don't have those initial sounds and they can't hear the sounds, then they won't be able to blend. So it's about stripping it right back and going back to phase 2 and just seeing where those gaps are, and then even perhaps putting in at an early stage a referral to ASN and EAL, just to have them observed professionally at that point. It's about informing the parents as well that we've noticed, we've taught so many sounds, would you be able to practice these at home? And it's just about observing the children, monitoring the children, assessing them, which we do in our day-to-day formative practice anyway, and just about consolidating previous learning before we move on, and so that the children don't feel pressurised or any stress because they can't do it yet. It just might be that because of the language or the gaps in the language, they just need those gaps plugged.
And we'll talk more about assessment next time, won't we, as well? Amara, we'll answer your questions in a little moment, sorry.
So the reading and phonics, at this stage we are giving the children wordless books. We use Band-Aid coloured books, and but to get the children talking and to see what vocabulary they might require, they've got to look at the pictures and they've got to make up the story. So they are using their words, they're using their vocabulary to make and retell the story. And that helps us as teachers to see, well, there was a book about making pancakes, and one of my children, they just weren't sure of what the sink was, different utensils, ingredients, and so that's something that I know that I have to work on. And I'll do that in my small intervention groups. But also just how important the reading is. So you're modelling that as a teacher. When they go home, I'm sure that they're read to. You've got that passion of reading. You're talking about the stories. You're asking questions. The children are making up their own endings. You're really getting them motivated at that start, so that as they progress through the school, they've got a love of reading, they're confident, they're independent, they're able to use their questioning and showcase their understanding and their comprehension skills. And also just about that progression from nursery, the children are looking at the title of the book, they're able to hold a book, talk about the pictures and all the functions of the book. And then our children are now ready to recognise tricky words in their book. Some of them are decoding and able to like blend their sounds together using their CBC. They're also noticing the rhyme in the books. Children love fairy tales, so it's about reading them familiar stories that they can join in, and they've really enjoyed We're Going on a Bear Hunt this week, because as Star said, it's repetitive. So anything that's got actions, the enormous turnip is a really good one, because the children actually act out the story, and it's that repetition, they pull and they pull, and you can introduce tricky words that way. So it's just about tapping into their interest and laying that foundation and that love for reading, and making time for it in your day, because it is a very, very busy day. Just to showcase that you really enjoy reading, and they'll take that on as well.
I'm just going to go back to this one, because Amara has asked about the do the children cut out the title, or are they pre-cut? Do you know the answer to this?
I do. So see the first one. This little boy needed a lot of support, and so he was given the title, and he was given the what you need. So it's those instructions, and also the idea of listing, but then he had a go on his own. So you can see the differentiation there. He's just not ready yet, but he'll get there. And that just takes away the burden, or that, oh, I can't do this, it's too much on a page. He's even had a go at first, and he's written number 1, and then he's had to go writing first and then wash, and that's the way you would spell wash. So that's wonderful. I actually taught this little boy last year, so for me that is amazing progress, considering we've been online and now being able to do instructions. So you can see how the phonics has moved on from one sentence now to writing instructions. So that's a really good idea, where he'll feel as though he's really achieved something, and he'll be really proud, because he's had to read what the title is. He's had to look and see, oh well, I need to know what to do next. So all the things that I'll need, and he knows that that's different from the title.
Right, so it looks like it might have been pre-cut, so he might have cut it himself. Pre-cut, so but he has to work out where it goes. So he's still achieving the same as everybody else, just hasn't written those 2 titles because they might have taken a long time. Bless him. That's lovely to see. So in conclusion, independent reading and writing really is a long journey, but when they start learning sounds and they start writing it, they just go a million miles an hour, and it's amazing to see. As you can hear, me and Claire are absolutely passionate about phonics, and we love teaching phonics. Writing always needs a purpose. They shouldn't just be writing sentences, and it doesn't have to always be a story. It can be something playful, it can be all different kinds of reasons to write and something to inspire them. The environment really is key. It really is that third teacher. Like Claire has said, they can have words that they can take off to take over to their writing and use and put back again. They can have different materials around the room that they can find, so they can be independent in their writing. Children need support from all different angles to transform from emergent into developing writers. Ours are kind of on the cusp at the moment, and you can see those year 1 children really are developing writers. All of that writing was either independent or very minimal adult support, but they would have had all that scaffolding and all of that input from the adults. Talking is very important, whether it's reading, whether it's the talk for writing, whether it's the shared writing. Talking is just such an amazing part of writing. It really supports children with their phonics to use it independently. And sometimes those EAL children might need extra input. And Claire did talk a bit about how to support those children with those interventions, and that's okay, that they will need more than children who have English as their first language. And children can learn how to improve their own writing, which is really amazing to see as well. And if you start from a young age, they will know how to self-improve, which is what we are starting with them now. Mara, I'm just going to look at a couple of your questions. Would you say they have the relevant fine motor skills to be able to cut at the time they start year 1? What's a general year group you would say children? I'd say so, yeah. If that was something they were doing by themselves, they should be able to at that age. I think the only reason the teacher cut out for them is just time saving. But yeah, our children at the moment are working on those fine motor skills. They should be able to cut.
Yeah, I think it was more not about a cutting exercise. It's more just about, it's all about the writing. But we focused really heavily on fine motor skills and the gross motor skills before we actually start with the mark making. And so it's about making sure that those children are independent to be able to move up to year 1 so that they can access all of those different skills and are readiness for writing. Yeah.
And are we part of a company? We're part of Nord Anglia. We're not part of any other company. And maybe we should. No, we're not, I'm afraid, Amara, but we can talk to Kate Erica. We'd love to do any more webinars in the future if there's anything you want to suggest that's early years, because we are both early years specialists. So yeah, please do feel free to suggest anything that you want us to do webinars on, because we do love talking about early years and teaching about early years.
Am I able to quickly mention something just on that? Yeah, so second year student, I'm studying early years education, so I thought this webinar would be useful in terms of my own studies and teaching phonics in my placement. So you say you're part, what did you say you're part of, sorry?
It's Nord Anglia.
Yeah, so we teachers at Nord Anglia International School.
Right, okay. Are you part of a specific company? So in terms of, you know, how you deliver these webinars, is there anything that do you have your own website that I can access in terms of looking at resources and any future webinars that you'll be hosting?
Yeah, so was it Claire, sorry?
It's called Eventbrite.
I'll write it on here, yeah. Event, and that is, they do organise other webinars as well, is that right? Bright like that, yeah? Yeah, I think it's like that, Eventbrite. And there are other webinars on there.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, good luck on your studies.
Thanks.
And Lillian, yes, we have the other webinars that have been shared. I guess they'll also be on that website, right?
Yeah. So I think Kate will have a list of all of your emails, and what we can do is we can ask her to send out the previous webinars that we've done. So the next one that we'll do will be our last one. And what we thought was it was just a good idea to kind of show the journey that we do with our children for phonics and just that progression. But we can certainly ask Kate if she can send out the email with all the links.
Yeah. So next time in the last session, we'll be talking more about the actual formalities of phonics, more about the planning and assessment and how to use AFL, how you can really use your assessment to teach phonics, and more of less of a kind of input and then children go and do the learning, and a more of a kind of fluid concept, how you might start with some children, bring others in, ask others to go off with the TLA, ask children to move between groups. That sort of fluid teaching concept is something we really are passionate about in this school. And then the differentiating between what children need, so more about that support, and then about virtual school experience and phonics, which we have done a lot of this year, which is basically online teaching and how you can engage children on virtual school, how you can support parents, and how you can keep that learning going when children are at home. Is there any way to catch up on the previous webinars? Yeah, we'll ask if Kate can share those previous webinars, because we do have 3 previous ones and we've got 1 more to come. Thank you. Okay. What's the last slide? Yeah, that's okay. Send. Yeah, so we'll ask Kate to share. Thank you. And lots of questions. Does anyone have any more questions they want to ask verbally or to type? We're always open to questions, or to anyone if you want to share any other good practice. If you don't agree with anything, that's fine as well. Yeah. Hi, sorry, you're joining us right at the end at the moment. Someone called Roxanne is joining. Hi, Roxanne, you've just joined us. We're just about to finish, but we will share these webinars on the Eventbrite website, and they will be shared with you as well, the link to the YouTube page where they will be stored. So thank you very much from both of us. We hope we've been helpful and useful, and we'd love to get your feedback, and so would Kate Erica, who organised these. You can either scan this QR code or go to the website. Get something in the